It'd be really interesting to get to do a A/B test, 2 timelines kind of scenario where you have, your approach where the deck box has massive selection, right? Like that, to me, that sounds like a big part of the USP, right?
Yep.
You could come into the deck box and say, I want these cards. Probably got them.
Yep.
Probably have everything that you need, right?
Yep.
And that's a value that not every store can offer, right? Not every store has the ability to or wants to.
It's definitely a high bar.
But if you compared that with, okay, so you've got 99% coverage, right? Now I've had other stores on the podcast who that's their thing. They got 99% of every Magic card ever printed, right? And they try to keep it always in stock as much as they can. And that's the reason why customers come to them. But if it was, let's say, 80% or 60 or 50, or you just kind of did it at like that 20%, I only carry the standard stuff that's just been released in the last 3 months. Yeah. What would the difference in, customer satisfaction and like the sale volume and revenue, like how would that affect things? Is there a multiplier at 100% that just like makes it worth it that you've invested? Because that's a lot, right? That's a lot of inventory.
It's a fair bit. So I'd say in terms of how we view it is that it's one of those things that what you're selling as a game store outside for like new release product where that's kind of, for the most part, if your allocation's good, you can kind of have whatever you need for that. So if you say you want, $200 of a new set release, you can probably get that, assuming you've sort of like built up with your distributor that you like that's a level that you go through. Whereas with, more vintage stuff, it's a little more tricky. So I would say that, in terms of there is a cost of carrying so much product. But part of that is, it does generate sales in the long term. But I think that's part of where you see like that slow build model where you don't start off with everything, but you start off with like kind of the greatest hits and sort of, build a client relationship. And when a client, because the biggest thing is that when you treat people like clients instead of customers, a client. And I know if I bring in this, reserve list dual land, I've got a guy for that. Mm-hmm. You as a seller bringing me something, you don't know the guy, but I know the guy, and I know, cool. I give you 50% in cash or 70% in trade for that thing that you've got. I know a client, I know a buyer, and it's not a guarantee, but I know if I reach out to that person or if I make a social post where I throw it up, that person is going to message me or say, hey man, like, can you hold this? Like, and it's something where when you have that level of client knowledge, you can make those bigger plays. So basically saying, okay, seeing, it's not just a have this thing, didn't have it, walked out, no kind of collective memory about what happened. It's Todd was in looking for, Exalted 8-bound. Neat. I'll put a hold notification on it for when it's in. I'll do, we order regularly from GW, but I'll do a special direct order so that he just gets his stuff. So when he comes in, I'll I'll just message him and say, hey, this showed up for you, came back in stock, we got it for you. If you need it, awesome. If you already got somewhere else, no big deal. We'll fill a hole in the wall with it. But it's that sort of like qualified buying where you go, okay, I know this person wants this thing. Mm-hmm. And I know if I'm out of it, everyone else is probably out of it. So if I make the effort to go have the thing before a regular restock or regular thing comes in, now I just have it kind of, all available.
It's a reliable sale.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not information or knowledge that you get without that relationship, right?
Exactly.
If it's all transactional. Yeah. You'll never know what they really want. You can kind of glean based off of what they purchased.
Because they may look at the wall of stuff and like kind of like browse a bit and go and just leave and go. Like,
yeah, they'll never tell you. Like, hey,
never tell you. Whereas if you have a conversation, go, hey man, what you looking for today? Anything excited? There's the conversational nature, and they say, yeah, man, I was looking for a Trigon, but you're out of stock of one. It's like, oh, yeah, like. I'll just grab your number, and when it comes in, we just give you a call. Like, if you find in the meantime, no big deal. We're just going to restock it anyway. But you get first pass on her. And that's the kind of thing where like, if you don't engage with them as clients and you just treat it strictly as customers, you will never get that level of knowledge and you'll miss that sale. So, it's $100 sale that a little bit of conversation and a little bit of engagement, and a little bit of legwork gets you, right? It's something where there's a value to that. Whereas, and that's, you have to be able to back up that client relationship with having what they want. Because if you just don't have what they want, no amount of relationship in the world is going to change. They're going, cool, I really need this card for my deck. It's the thing that makes it work. I'd love to buy it from you. I'm willing to give you some time. I'm willing to give you some patience on it to get it kind of figured out. But I want this. And if you can't get it for me, I'm willing to delay, but I'm eventually going to get it from somebody.
Yeah.
So like that's part of the element of, sort of saying, you want to have that inventory to support, the clients who want to shop with you, the clients who want to say, okay, I'd really like to buy this from you because I like you and I want to support you. You need to have that inventory to make that sale, because it doesn't make you any benefit if there's no ability to sort of, to have that sale materialize, because otherwise you'll just go, okay, well, this guy's been waiting on me for like 3 months to like get this thing for him. I never get around to it, or I don't do whatever, and he's eventually going to buy it from somebody else. So by the time I get the thing back in, all he's going to remember when I call him is saying, "Oh yeah, I waited for like 6 months for you to figure this out, and I just went and bought it." Right? It's like, it's like so that's a part of it, right? And so what level do you stock to? I think the answer is that I think you don't need as large of a blanket approach if you truly know your customer, know your client base, and don't just treat them as customers. Because if you're treating them as customers, you may not get that information, and no amount of stocking will sort of be like, cool, I have 90% of this stuff, but he wants that that thing. That thing that falls out of the 90% range, what somebody might want or care for, he falls outside of that. So I'm never going to satisfy that customer, even if I'm at like 90 or 92%, if I don't have that unique thing they're looking for. And you don't know that unless you're treating it as a client experience rather than as a customer experience.